Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. My name is Anissa Avon, and this is Leading in a Crisis, Actionable HR and Business Strategies for Navigating Crisis and Change. And I would show my screen, but Sheila, I don't have permissions. So it might be because Sheila has the big orange button and I don't. So that's okay. You know what? We're going to go screenless today. Our talk, hello, Salvatore, how are you?
Great, thank you. Lovely to be here, thanks.
So grateful that you're here. Really excited about your talk. Salvatore's talk today is Effective Virtual Facilitation, Tools and Techniques for Leading Online Groups. And am I saying your last name right? Salvatore Manzi?
Perfect. See, yes.
Okay. Kind of impressed with myself that moment. I just want to very quickly say thank you to a few of our sponsors, the Whitmarsh Consulting Group, super talented group of multi-channel marketing experts. Also want to say thank you to Insperity for sponsoring our webinar series. Insperity put together a freebie for HR folks who had to throw their HR budgets out the window, and it is a free HR budget analysis and confidential one-on-one debrief. If you feel like that would be helpful, just having an HR peer to support you in some of the changes, reach out to them. You can learn more at turnkeycoachingsolutions.net/HR report. And then finally, our last sponsor is our internal team of strategic planning management consultants. They've put together a crisis strategy, strategic approach that's a data-driven approach to take an organization's strategic plan and help them pivot. And they decided not to do free, but it's the next best thing. It's name your own price as a means of serving, being of service, and supporting organizations through this difficult time. So a little bit about me. My name is Anissa Avon, and I am the CEO of TurnKey Coaching and Development Solutions. And we are our goal is to be a single point service provider for learning and development, for enterprise learning and development solutions, from executive coaching to outplacement to training, etc. And you know, one of the things that I'm super proud of right now is our summit. We have 50 plus speakers. We're going to be every Wednesday and Thursday, April, May, and now into June. And today I am just thrilled to have Salvatore with us. Salvatore brings 21 plus years of organizational and leadership development to businesses. He doesn't look that old, does he? Right? He helps leaders motivate and align their teams. He helps organizations strategically navigate change and through conflict and change management. And he helps organizations create a culture of trust and collaboration. Some of the things that he specifically organizations hire him for are leadership development and public speaking or motivational speaking and training, cross-cultural communication, meeting facilitation, and team building. So he has worked in a variety of industries and supported a variety of businesses, including healthcare, biotech, education, insurance, technology, and on and on. So Salvatore, thank you so much for being with us. Tell us a little bit about you and what we're going to learn today.
Thank you, Anissa. It's wonderful to be here. I appreciate the introduction, and thank you to Paige and Sheila for your work behind the scenes here to make this happen. First off the top, I just want to say it's not virtual meetings that you hate. It's poorly run virtual meetings that drag your energy down, drain you, and that's what we want to correct today. Okay. I'm hoping to share with you some tools and techniques from my online training. It's called Effective Virtual Leadership. It's a 90-minute training. You can go in-house or you can join it on a class. And these tools help you to facilitate groups to make them engaging, collaborative, and productive. And Anissa, you asked about me a little bit. I am a communications coach and trainer. I've been traveling the world for the last 5 years, going into corporations, teaching 1 to 4 day communication training, everything from CEOs, celebrities. I've worked with a presidential candidate. I can tell you there is one universal truth to communication. all communication is contextual. It depends on who you're talking to, what you're talking about, and the environment in which you are sharing that content. And today we're working in the virtual space, and I'll tell you what, if you can master the virtual communication space, you and your team are going to rocket ship up. So I hope to do that today. I'm going to be sharing a little bit on virtual presence, because it's important to appear with confidence, and it's also important to overcome certain issues that come up in technology. Secondly, I'm going to talk about creating inclusive environments. D&I has kind of taken a back step since we've gone into shelter in place, and we need to bring that forward again, because there are certain things like the delay bias that show up on Zoom and virtual environments that we need to be conscious of and work with. And third, I'm going to talk about the physiology of the Zoom platform and virtual settings, because Zoom fatigue is real. I don't know if you had it. Do you have it, Anissa? A little, yeah, like, well, I don't know if I can do it. So I'm going to share some of the physiology of what causes Zoom fatigue and some ways that you can help change that, reverse it, and keep moving forward. Now, Anissa, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I have about 30 minutes to share.
Yes,
I love questions. 30 minutes?
Yes.
Yeah. I love questions, highly interactive. Right now, let's just start with a little bit interactive. Type into the chat box, where are you calling in from? Where are you watching? Where are you calling in from today? I'd love to see that, kind of flood the chat box with that. While we're doing that, I want you to know you can send questions, and either Anissa or Sheila will help to bring my attention to it, and we'll talk about it. Your questions are valuable because everybody gets to learn from them. And by the end of this segment that we have together, my hope is that you feel empowered to go out there and lead online groups that are inclusive, supportive, and engaging. So awesome. Before I jump in there, I see we got Scottsdale, we got some
Texas, and Spring, Texas, and these are all my Texas friends. Tomball, Texas, Scottsdale, Arizona, Utah, Cypress. Yep, I'm in Cyprus as well. Interesting. And I wanted to clarify, we actually have until 4:15 today. So I figured 30 minutes of content, lots of interaction. We're going to jam pack it.
Cool. Well, excellent. Well, let's start off, and I'm going to get going, but I want to start off, if you have something in particular that you're curious about when it comes to virtual facilitation or leading online groups, type that in there. In fact, just everybody type one sentence. What's one thing you would like for me to touch on, or that you would like to get out of our time here today? So one sentence, what's something that comes up for you that you would like to know more about when it comes to online facilitation or leading online groups? We'll wait for those to come in. Mm-hmm. And while that is happening, Anissa, tell me about how much longer this turnkey is going to be, the summit is going.
Yeah, so we've had enough interest and enough folks sending in topic requests that we've decided to go through June. Yes. And, you know, evidently I get a little choked up because we've just received a lot of appreciation, and it's so meaningful to hear that we're doing something that's meaningful and hopefully making some small difference.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you for the service you're providing, because during this time, we all need extra support. So thank you for that. I really loved, I think you're the one that Sheila wrote in there. What are top tips you have for pre-Zoom meeting preparation? Wow, there's a whole list there. But you do want to make sure your notifications are shut off on your computer. You don't ever want to share your screen with notifications pop up. You want to check all your audio and video equipment as well. I always like to have a practice session. If I'm doing a big presentation, 300 or 2,000 people, I want to have a pre-practice session with a team, make sure everything is running. But the thing that kind of tipped me off on, it's called the unofficial start. Everybody knows when you start a Zoom meeting, people kind of trickle in, they come a little bit late, a few minutes, and there's that weird sort of, when is this going to start? So I use what's called an unofficial start. At the very top of your call, first people start checking in, give them a question. Perhaps it's something personal, perhaps it's something topical, but give them a question, have them type in the chat box, get a discussion going. Because the thing missing in the virtual environment is what's called the water cooler. The water cooler effect is that little chit chat that you have before and after a real in-person meeting. You know, how was your day? Did you go see that movie? Did you try this restaurant? It's gone in this environment. So creating some sort of a a format for people to get that chit chat water cooler effect at the beginning with the unofficial start is really helpful. I saw some other ones, keeping audience engagement. We're going to talk about that because you know what? 65% of your audience was multitasking during your last online event.
Yes.
I want to share with you some ways to make sure that doesn't keep happening.
Excellent.
And then we had another one on engagement. We got a lot of engagement.
To ensure participation and collaboration. And someone else wrote best techniques for engaging people, especially when you can't see them on the screen.
Yes, yes. Well, let me just start with a 0 to 10. 0 to 10. Put it in the chat box. How severe has been your Zoom fatigue? 0 to 10. 10 means I can't even look at my screen. I need a year off of this thing. 0 means, are you kidding? I lick my screen at the end of the day. So 0 to 10. Where do you land on Zoom fatigue?
Lots and lots of 8s coming in right now. Got a 6. Yep. 5 stay on point and eyes focused on 5, 6.
Yeah. Zoom fatigue is real, and there's some physiological aspect to it. So let's just jump right in there. When we sit in this state and we stay focused, what happens is we disembody and become totally mental. We lose connection with our body and we go into our head. We're processing information, we're staying focused. The longer we do that, the more mental we get, the less connected we are with our body. And that's not normal. It's not human to have an interaction where I'm disconnected from my body. In a regular interaction, I'm moving my body, I'm looking in other directions, and who simply stares at someone's face the whole time you're talking to them? It doesn't happen. So you've got to do some things that, number one, get the heart rate back up. Because when you're sitting sedate, focused, sit still, your heart rate keeps dropping. And when your heart rate drops, your brain energy drops, but then you're trying to push it harder to pay attention. This imbalance is what starts causing that Zoom fatigue. So you need to do something immediately to get yourself and your participants get that heart rate back up. So right now, Anissa, I can only see you. So put your arms up in the air.
Oh, here I am.
Up in the air. Now put them in front of you. Put them out to the side. And do some shoulder rolls. That's it. There's nothing wrong with getting your participants to move a little bit, especially if it's the 4th or 5th meeting of the day. Do them a favor. You can go ahead and stop. Thank you. This isn't a complete...
well, hang on. This is feeling good.
We'll do the Jane Fonda whole routine later on.
Right.
Every time I change topics or change speakers, it's a great opportunity to do some sort of physical thing. Everybody look to your left. Everybody look to your right. Whatever it is, have them move. It gets the heart rate back up. It allows the brain to re-engage, and then they don't get the Zoom fatigue. The second aspect of that, and I think everybody can probably feel with this, but I want to feel it. Have you ever felt like you can't connect with the other person? Right, I'm seeing a head shaking.
Yeah.
That lack of connection is caused because we're not in touch with our own bodies. Because we are up here in our minds and we're not feeling our body. So when you are moving again, then you start to have an embodied experience with the virtual space, and then you can start connecting with that other person. Now, that's just a couple of quick things. What I want to get to is something even bigger, and that's called facial mimicry. I'm going to have you say it as well. Go ahead, Anissa. Facial mimicry.
Facial mimicry.
Right, it's such a weird word, right?
Facial mimicry. Weird word.
Facial mimicry is something that happens spontaneous, automatic, and continuously. When you are in communication with somebody, your face is mimicking the person that you're talking to, because that's how you are able to embody their emotions. Without facial mimicry, your brain is having problems because of this. Our brains are prediction generators. They're constantly predicting the environment to understand what's happening next. So if I'm unable to accurately predict your feelings, your thoughts, where this conversation is going, my brain is registering a prediction error and goes into overdrive, trying to interpret what it is that I'm actually communicating. This happens most consistently when you cannot accurately see the other person's face. If I turned off my front camera, you can't see my face as well.
Yeah.
That lack of ability to see my, or light, not camera, That ability to see around my eyes and around my mouth is enabling you to facial mimicry with me. So here's your hack. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
2 things. Turn up the brightness on your screen. Turn it all the way up. That'll allow you to see the faces of the other participants more correctly. Secondly,
Great hack.
great hack, right? And because people don't realize this, but if you are sitting there focused on somebody who has a dark screen, you can't make out their face, your brain is literally doing triple time trying to interpret what is happening. That's why you get Zoom fatigue. So turn the brightness up. The second technique, and this is going to sound a little silly, but I'm going to drop it out there. If somebody's speaking and you can't see their face accurately, look away. Look at somebody else's face on the screen. They don't know you're not looking at them. They won't be offended. But then you can rely on your hearing. You hear the tone of voice. You hear the inflection. Then you actually start to feel them. Because when you are visually focused, your brain is trained to spend 80% of its processing power translating what it sees visually. If you turn off the visual, then it'll go to the next one. It'll go to your hearing. How do you like that one, Annie?
It's a good hack too.
Yeah. Am I saying your name right? Can you say it for me?
Anissa.
Anissa with a long E. Anissa. It's Italiano, ancora.
I'm up for that today.
Okay, we'll go with full Italian. All right, so the 2 hacks to eliminate Zoom fatigue for yourself and for your participants. Number 1, move, get them moving. Number 2, turn up the brightness or look away when a person with the dark screen is talking. It'll calm your mind down. Let me check in with the audience right now. How is this landing? Have you had this happen? What's your experience with Zoom fatigue or virtual world fatigue? What are some things that you've noticed? And have you seen any other ways to combat Zoom fatigue?
Good questions.
We got a 20 from Nathan.
We got a 20.
So his Zoom fatigue is not just 10, it's 20.
It's
I feel you.
off the charts.
I feel you. There's some days somebody's like, hey, you want to have a Zoom party tonight? Actually, no. All right. Well, that's getting into the physiology. What I want to get into next is the virtual presence. And everybody's aware now of different key things to have. I'm going to share the first tip is eye contact. Eye contact, I know a lot of people, I'm already hearing in my head, Salvatore, we know eye contact, I'm supposed to look at the camera, not at the screen. This is important. This is important because when you make eye contact with your audience, oxytocin is released in their brains. It's a social bonding chemical, allows them to trust you, and they start to have a nice bonding with you. That's the first part. The second thing is, it's really difficult to stare into a little black hole. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So here's your little hack on that. Take a picture of your team or your prospective client, place it behind the camera lens on your above your screen. That way, instead of focusing on the dot, you're actually focusing on what looks like an audience or a dinner table or a conference room, whatever it is. Research from the Kellogg School of Management shows you are 12% more likely to find an agreement if you are looking at the picture of the person that you are trying to work with.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah, got to let that sink in. 12%. So if you want to increase the productivity of your team or your sales by 12%, place a photo of them behind the screen, behind the camera lens, and focus on them as you're communicating. It's a very powerful tool. What do you think?
I think that's got to be very powerful. We've had a couple of folks make some comments that I want to share.
Yeah.
Lori says, I think that lighting is more important than I thought it was previously, and microphone, sitting so close so I can see, etc. Nathan said, that's awesome. And Sheila said, also notice where Salvatore's head is positioned in the screen, balanced and centered.
I do that. Sometimes I move off to one side, and then I have like a virtual background that shows some other things here as well. My background is not virtual. I've gone to the extent, I've spent a lot of money creating the perfect set. It was a $5 sheet from Target. I hung it on the wall. The research shows if you have a blue solid background. It's calming, emotionally calming for your audience, and they're not distracted by anything else. I won't go into all the full background and lighting and all those things, but what I would like to step into is talking about how to show up confident.
Yeah.
We're in a new environment. My clients are always asking me, Salvatore, how can I show up confident online? So I have a couple of tips on that. Number one, posture. If I'm hunched over my keyboard, it's not that I'm just sending the image of being crushed over, but I'm physiologically crushing myself. I can't communicate with strength and confidence. You literally have to lift up from here, let your shoulders roll back and communicate straight in front of you. That conveys confidence from your vocal cords. Second tip, smile. Smile conveys confidence. It's a really strange thing, but when you smile, it's biological. You smile, I smile, I smile, you smile. It increases your confidence ratio huge. Third tip, to appear confident, especially in an online gathering, pause. You saw that coming, didn't you? The pause is very, Lisa was like, oh, did we lose him? He's frozen. Pause is a really powerful technique that takes time to learn. And I'm going to break it. I'm going to unpack it a little bit. First of all, people tell me all the time, if I pause, somebody's going to jump in and interrupt me. Yes, but they interrupt you because they're used to your regular cadence and style of communication. Once you start taking pauses, they'll get used to the new you and they won't interrupt you. And I bet you know somebody who takes pauses and doesn't get interrupted. You can become that person. Tip number 2, the thing about pausing, you have to pause right before you give some gold. If I pause in the middle of if I pause right at a comma, people are anticipating that pause. And they might even think you're done. But if you pause somewhere in the middle of a comment or right before you give that perfect piece of advice or suggestion, whatever it is, then people listen in. Third tip for pausing. I'm really throwing a lot at you. I hope you're getting all of this. Seth Godin, he's an amazing thought. You know him, yeah. What are your thoughts on Seth?
Oh, he's brilliant. He's fantastic. Love his books.
Right?
Yeah.
You've read his books. Yeah,
yeah.
It's just brilliance all the way through. I find myself quoting him. I write his quotes on my walls. It's just, he says, if you pause for 1 to 2 seconds, people will think you lost your place. First aha, if you did lose your place, wait 1 more second, because 3 to 5 seconds, people think it's on purpose. So 1 to 2 seconds, people think you lost your place. 3 to 5 seconds, people think you did it on purpose.
Hey, hang on, everybody. You want your pen for this one? Because that's an important one. 3 to 5, it was intentional.
3 to 5 people will think it's intentional. And here's the kicker. If you can hold a pause for 10 seconds.
Oh, you're going to torture me.
Yeah, I know, right? Even the people that have started multitasking somewhere else and doing something else, they're going to stop what they're doing, come back and see, wait, what is going on? Oh, I bet, okay. They're going to come back for that critical piece of information that you want to drop. And I'll tell you right now, the pause is difficult. It feels uncomfortable the first couple of times you do it. So work your way up to it. I worked with a communication coach for a while, and he got me up to 10 seconds, but I thought it was a minute. I swear to God, I was waiting a minute. Like, come on, that was at least 30 seconds. He's like, no, 10. So it feels uncomfortable at first. Keep playing around with it. Anissa, have you ever worked with a communications coach?
Yes.
You have. And what did you get out of that communication coaching?
Conciseness, being more concise. I still have an issue with that. Right? Clarity, setting forth the goal of the communication before communicating. Those are just some of the things that I can think of off the top of my head.
Wonderful. Concision is a big one. The more concise a person can be, the more of a leader they appear to be. And I also think it's all contextual. We talked about this earlier. It's all contextual. If I'm having a one-on-one conversation, I'm going to mirror their communication. So I'm not going to respond with yes. And that's it. I want to have a conversation. So contextual, but if we can learn that concision, that's a really good one. All right, another tip around appearing confident. Show your palms. Sounds weird, but we biologically do not trust that the person doesn't have a weapon until we see their palms.
Wow.
This is why on a big stage, you will always see the presenter will say at some point, I really am glad to be here with you today. It's really great to be with you. I've got some things. Showing the palm registers as a biological calm down. This person's not hiding anything. They have nothing to hide. I'm showing my cards. So if you want to appear confident, palm 45-degree angle like this at some point while you are talking. Yeah, very easy, right? Yeah, yep, yep. Next one, since we're talking about the palms, hand gestures, the steeple. The steeple is considered a very powerful point. So if you're on a call and you're thinking, it's not the prayer, but it's the steeple. This steeple point is showing confidence. I'm aware, I'm confident, I know what I'm doing. So those are some quick, easy ways to maintain confidence. What I also want to share is inside, if you don't like seeing yourself on camera, not all of us do, and like, oh my God, what's going on? You know, this happens, it's natural. If you don't like that, you can also turn off self-view, and that'll allow you to just focus on what's going on. I prefer to see myself because I want to make sure that I'm staying inside of my frame. When I go outside of my frame a lot, people start to wonder what is going on, and it becomes more distracting.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. How do you feel about body language and body gestures, Anissa?
Well, you know, knowing as a speaker myself and a trainer, I know that most of what I communicate is being communicated by body language. And so, you know, good speakers train themselves to be super mindful of our reactions and our body language.
Yeah. And I was doing a seminar yesterday and somebody asked the question, how can I show up as a good participant? How can I let the facilitator know that I'm a good participant?
Great question.
They wanted to impress their bosses and so forth. And it's body language. We're not going to take ourselves off mute and say, yes, go, I agree. But what we can do is we can say, yeah, okay, nice. All of those little things communicate to the speaker that you're engaged in what they're saying, you're following them, you're tracking. Most of us get in front of a computer and it's a soldier. We're standing here like this and we're communicating. So your goal, in fact, after listening to this, you're not allowed to not make gestures anymore. One gesture per sentence. That's all you have to do. One gesture per sentence. Bring your hands into the box. Let the people see your hands. Let them see your palms. One gesture per sentence is going to communicate a whole world of difference. All the research shows, they've analyzed not all, but they've analyzed a lot of TED Talks. Speakers who use hand gestures are viewed as warm, confident, warm, and knowledgeable. So when you use those hand gestures, it actually makes you appear more confident on the screen with others. So I feel like I'm just throwing a lot of information at you, Anissa. How's this landing with you?
Really good. We can't see Nathan, but he's doing this. Thumbs up.
I saw that. Thank you, Nathan. I owe you solid on that one. All right, Anissa, I'm going to have you do a little hand gesture. Put your hand up here and then bring it back down here. Low context, high context. Say it with me. Okay. Low context.
Low context.
High context.
High context.
Low context, high context cultures. There are two different cultures around the world. All cultures kind of fall into one of two categories, low context or high context. To explain what this means in a low context culture, we assume that you don't have an understanding of what I'm talking about, and we break it down into details. In a high context culture like Italy, we assume that you have a general understanding of what I'm talking about, and we just hit the high level points. I'll make it very personal for you. If you asked an Italian from a high context culture, how do you make pasta? They would say, oh, you take some pasta, you boil it, you rinse it off, you add a little bit of olive oil, a little basil, you got perfect pasta, right? You ask an American from a low context culture, how do you make pasta? They're going to say, you boil 6 to 8 cups of water. You
Yeah.
add about an inch of pasta, boil it for 6 to 8 minutes, depends on how al dente. Put it into a strainer, rinse with cold water, let it sit for 30 seconds. You get the point.
Yep.
We in a low context culture is ... High context, not so much. But here's the kicker. In a low context culture, we're used to asking questions, interrupting, sharing our opinions. In a high context culture, it's not like that. If I was giving a talk in Japan right now and I said, are there any questions? No one would raise their hands. It would be considered impolite and rude. And here's where I want us to take away as facilitators. In the virtual environment, we're dealing with a mix of high to low context cultures. We don't know what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So how you can meet that in the middle is, number one, give multiple ways of communicating. Raise your hand, use the chat box, use the emotion keys, the reaction keys. Let us know, interact with us. That way we've given them permission to interact with us. The second thing is to look for comfort or discomfort. When you're looking at the screen, what you're looking for is comfort or discomfort. Right now we're in webinar, so we can only see each other. But if you can see the whole room or the whole Zoom, and oftentimes if it's a large group, I'll have a buddy, and my buddy is scanning the room. And when you're looking for comfort or discomfort, this is what you're looking for. Discomfort looks like closing in, blocking a little bit. Covering the mouth is a big one. If they cover their mouths, that typically means they have a question or they're confused or they're afraid they have bad breath, but that's probably not the third one. So if they're covering up their mouth or they're closing in, that's discomfort. You want to call it out in a gentle way or a direct way. Seems like some of this isn't landing. Let me check in with you again. So does anybody have any questions right now, or maybe in an indirect way saying, I'm seeing some confusion maybe. Let me back up and repeat it in a different way and see if it lands.
Yeah.
Or you go direct. Hi, I'm seeing a little bit like maybe you're a little confused. Do you have a question? Great, and you can call them out directly. So that's the way you can meet the low to high context cultures in the middle. Sound good?
Yes.
Now, you don't know this, but I kind of tricked you, Anissa.
I suspect you would have.
People have been asking, how do I keep audience engagement? When I had you do this with me, very simple. And I know you're giving me 100% love right now, and I feel it and I love it. But on if we had 100 people on this call, there's going to be people disengaged. So by having you do something to mimic me in your screen, that brought 100% engagement back to the room. So number one strategy for increasing engagement, do something that requires a physical movement from your audience. That'll get you 100% engagement back.
Excellent.
All right. Next tip is in terms of inclusivity. I want to go a little more into that. Is there's ground rules and agreements. When we're in a meeting for the first time, it's important to set ground rules. Ground rules are, I don't want any crosstalks when I'm chatting, or the ground rules are, we're going to be here for about an hour. If you have questions, type them in. Ground rules are, we're not going to be recording, or we are recording. Those are ground rules. There's also agreements. That's when you put it out to the group and say, do you agree to this? Hey, everything that happens in this call is going to be confidential. Like, do you agree? Great. That's an agreement. When it comes to inclusivity, in order to create a space where everybody feels safe to communicate, to share, to provide, you want to make sure everybody has a buy-in, and that comes from agreements, not ground rules. So the first time you meet with your team, you want to go over the ground rules and create a list of agreements. One great agreement is around step up, step back. Have you heard that one before?
No.
So oftentimes in groups, there's someone who naturally is the first one to talk, and there's someone who never talks, right? So step up, step back is an opportunity. Hey, if you're a person that talks a lot, take a step back, give some space. And if you're a person that doesn't talk a lot, this is your opportunity to step up and shine. And on that same kind of vein, I encourage everyone to call out mansplaining. It's real. Interrupt the interrupters. We don't want to hear it. Like, somebody has to do it, and you can do it easily. In a virtual platform, you can send them a text immediately, a chat. Hey, you just interrupted her. Let her go back to talking, or just call it out directly. Hey, it's not kind to interrupt her. Let her finish her sentence. We need to put an end to this today. Okay, I'm going to get off my soapbox. I do spend a portion of my time teaching diversity and inclusion, and that's one thing that just kind of sends me
Well,
off
I
the.
would suspect if we had more time, there would be a lot of questions about that because not everyone is skilled at communicating. Hey, can you not interrupt? I mean,
Yeah.
that can be difficult for some folks.
Here's the tip. If you witness that, all you have to do is one word. Wow. Wow. And then they can say, what? Say, oh, I was listening to her, but I didn't finish the rest of her sentence. That wow is
Right.
enough of a neutral expression that it's not shaming or blaming. It's not calling out. It's just wow. And sometimes they won't hear it the first time. So the second, the third time they hear a wow, they might stop and say, huh, yeah, let me go back and check that out.
That's great.
All right, let's keep moving with the inclusive tips. Thank you, Sheila. I like that, what you just shared. It is easy to get excited, swept up, and interrupt. And there is a culture where that's appropriate. But I want to put an end to mansplaining off the tracks. In a virtual environment, there's something that's called the delay bias. This is real, and it's tricky. It's an unconscious thing when we see someone not respond immediately to a question, to a prompt, we unconsciously judge them to be less intelligent or less capable. It's sad. But because if a person's struggling to get off mute, if a person's struggling to formulate the answer, it creates what's called the delay bias. And unfortunately on teams right now, the one or two people that are not used to the technology, that are having trouble getting caught up, they're getting the most hit by the delay bias from the rest of the team. So it's important for the facilitator, for the leader of that group to create cover for that kind of functionality. If somebody's having trouble with their mute, have everybody go, hey, everybody raise your hand. Let's give them some love. This is challenging. We're all learning a new language. Great. Or the second thing to avoid delay bias, don't put people on the spot. If I were to say, okay, today we're going to talk about the economy. We're going to start with Anissa. It just put her on the spot. Wait, right? How'd that feel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would put a person on the spot. And if I had to fumble around with my mute button and anything else.
Yeah. Right. So to avoid that from happening, before you ask anybody's input, seed the pass. And this means, Anissa, I'd like to ask you about the economy. So I'm curious if you could put into one or two sentences, what are your thoughts on the economy? All I'm doing right now is buying you time. Mm-hmm. I told you I'm going to ask you, then I told you what I'm going to ask you, then I talked a little bit what I'm going to ask you so that you could formulate in your head a proper response. I'm just buying you time. So tip number one, cover for the mute. Tip number two, seed the pass so that no one inadvertently gets put on the spot and they have time to actually formulate a response. Again, I feel like I'm rushing through these, but I have a few more inclusive tips.
They're fantastic.
One is called the bridge moderator. There's something called out of sight, out of mind. If you have a participant who is a non-video participant in your virtual meeting, they become out of sight, out of mind. So designate someone on your team to be the bridge moderator. The bridge moderator at certain times through the call is going to say, hey, let's check in with Paige. We can't see her, but I want to hear what's your thought on this. Or, hey, we were just doing a poll, Paige. We want to hear what was your vote, or whatever it is. So you call that bridge moderator is calling out the non-visible participant so that they keep included in that. That's the bridge moderator. The second thing, yeah, it's great, right?
Yeah.
I love it. And I love the term too. The second one is buddy system. If you have anybody who has hearing problems or visual problems, or maybe they have an internet problem, assign a buddy. Assign a buddy to that person who's helping them along. Keep chatting with them, letting them know what's happening so that anybody who doesn't have the same capabilities or functionality can still participate in the virtual meeting in the same way because their buddy is keeping them going.
Love it. Did you see what Paige said? She said, that's crazy because I'm always the non-video participant. You're so
I feel you, Paige. I want your visual here. We should all be in a room dancing right now, but that's okay.
Yes,
Gotta wait.
tomorrow.
All right. Two more tips and I'm done with inclusion. And one is non-native English speakers. We all have them oftentimes in our teams. You always want to send them the materials ahead of time so that they can, get ready for what's going to happen. But more importantly, the first 90 seconds of hearing somebody's voice. If they have an accent, Anissa, yours is very subtle. I can barely pick up on a
What
little bit of it.
accent?
What accent? I'm from Kansas. I mean, I can hear a Texas accent. I got you right now. But whenever you hear someone's accent for the first time, it takes your brain 90 seconds to calibrate to their accent. So if you're listening to somebody who's speaking English but not from a native speaker, it takes your brain 90 seconds to catch up with what they're saying. And then after that, you're pretty good. But think of it in reverse. When you start communicating at the top of a meeting, you want to speak slowly and enunciate clearly for the first 90 seconds and then speed up to normal speed. That way, anybody who's not used to your accent or listening to you in a virtual space is going to calibrate to your hearing, and then you can have better communication. So pretty good, right?
Good advice.
When Mauricio, go ahead.
Yeah. Mauricio says, when to speak standing up or seated, as the energy tends to be different.
Yes, it is on point. If you are doing an interview, if you are giving a presentation, it is always better to stand up. And the weird thing is, they've done research on this. You can hear when a person is standing up while they're speaking to you. If you were just on the phone and didn't even have the visual, you can hear it. Your lungs fill up more. You can feel the movement in their bodies. In fact, they've done research to show you can hear when they move their arm. You can hear the motions that they're doing, even though you can't see them. So yes, stand up. It brings the energy up and it is a much better communication. Excellent. All right, last tip on inclusivity, and then we'll go into our fun time here. Last tip is 9-second pause. And I mentioned this before, but it takes 9 seconds for an introverted person to communicate effectively oftentimes. So if you're putting a question out to your team, asking for a response, this is how you do it. Everybody in the room right now, let's do this right now. Everybody in the room, type into the chat box, what's the biggest challenge your team is facing in this pandemic? Don't hit send, but just type into the chat box one challenge your team is facing during this pandemic. I'm gonna have everybody type into the chat box, and what you want to do is you want to wait till everybody has finished typing in, and then everybody hit send. Go ahead and do that now. Everybody hit send.
So smart.
Boom. Now they're all coming in. Because what will happen is, especially introverted people will wait to see other people's responses and just respond to what they saw, and rather than speaking from their own heart. But what we did, you want to read those out? Because I bet there's some good ones.
Yeah, so Dave said anxiety. Lillian said being alone. Anne says time to get things done. Sheila says heavy workload.
I feel you, Sheila.
Sorry, that's
slave driver.
Right. She's our VP of Client Services. So I'm like, I apologize. This one says NA, but it says feeling disconnected from each other. Mauricio, fear. Lori, keeping my team intact. Nathan says effective communication. Claudia says water cooler discussion. Paige says productivity in the workplace. Yeah, great answers. Thank you, everyone, for those responses. Appreciate it. And I feel you on those too. Another idea just came up. So you get the idea of have everybody type the answer in, but don't hit send until you all hit send at the same time. And that way, the most introverted person will still have the time to formulate their thought, put it in there, and share and be an equal contributor in the group. It's brilliant, right? It's just really brilliant.
Here's a second brilliance.
Like multiple brilliant moments today. I'm just saying.
I can't help it. It just comes out. No, the other little tip that I want to share, you can change your screen name. You know that you can change your name on your Zoom profile. Something that we've been playing around, when you want to get anonymous feedback, have everybody change their screen name to a period. Everybody changes their screen name to a period. And then everybody type in the chat box, put your responses in it. I can't see who it's from. It's all periods.
Yeah.
So you get anonymous feedback that everybody can read and get information from.
That's great.
And then go back, everybody change your name back to normal or to something that we can identify you with. And then from then on, the chat is brilliant. So how is that? That's a great tip, right? That's fun.
So obvious, and yet never did it cross my mind, ever.
Yeah.
Thank
Here's
you.
the thing. Most of us are thinking, how can we take our in-person meeting and do it virtually? No,
Yep.
no, 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 no. How can we do something in virtual that we could never do in person?
Love it.
Change the mindset and you can have a lot of fun with that. So
Anne, I think, says to go. She says, thank you. Need to get to my next meeting. So
thank you, Anne, for joining us.
Anne.
I hope it's not a Zoom meeting so you can get up and move. If you have to, just do that anyway. People ask me, what's the ideal meeting length? 90 minutes. There's no research on this yet, but it's becoming common practice. 90 minutes is the maximum meeting length, but you still need to have about a 5-minute break in there. If you're being enslaved to a 2-hour Zoom call, cry foul. Like, it's sadistic. We don't want to work that way. There needs to be a 15-minute break if you're going to go 2 hours.
Yeah.
So if you're doing a 90-minute, you get a 5-minute break minimum. 2 hours, do a 15-minute break. And then after 2 hours, give these people a break. We're living with our kids, dogs, and crazy. So, yeah.
Brilliant.
Cool. Well, I want to turn the floor over to you. I wanted to just, I'm going to turn the floor over to you. Questions?
Yeah, so folks that are with us, please do ask your questions. Nathan says he has the next one to attend also.
Bye, Nathan. Thank you.
M. Burke says, thank you, very insightful. Love the pauses and the use of hands. So my questions have to do with a little bit more of the disruptors, the folks that perhaps overtalk one another. You've shared a little bit about that, or keep doing it. What's the best practice for getting them to work correctly in a meeting, for example?
Well, I believe Sheila has the orange button today. So
yes,
you just mute them. Oh, I'm sorry, can't hear you. I'm kidding. I wouldn't do that to them. Here's what you do. To create an inclusive meeting that gives everybody equal opportunity and helps contain the over-talkers, set up your prompt. Okay, everybody share on the economy, and then give it parameters. 3 to 5 words max.
Yeah.
3 to 5 words. 1 sentence or less, no run-on sentences. What's your take on the economy? By setting the parameter, what happens is you're forcing the over-talker to be concise. And then if that over-talker keeps going, which happens, just say, thank you. We want to give everybody a chance. Let's, again, everybody, we're going to do 1 sentence. What's your take on the economy? And keep reiterating it. If you don't set the parameter, that over-talker is going to, and I'm going to double down on your question because I love it. The reality is over-talkers are one of the key crazies in any kind of environment. And essentially for me, what it is, it's somebody saying, I want to be seen, look at me, I want to be seen, I want to be valued. Give them a job. Give them a job. If they're the over-talker, say, hey, I really appreciate your opinions here. Would you mind taking notes today? And I want you to give them a job in the meeting. Then that sense of I want to be seen, they feel like they've got some value, they feel like they've been recognized, the emergency or urgency to overtalk dissipates a lot.
Excellent. This leads me to my next question, which is someone that really has a question, and they really want to communicate it, but they aren't very good at coming up with a concise question. So they'll tend to tell you all the backstory when I was 3 years old, and it's not intentional. They just can't get to their question. What's your advice for corralling the long-winded questioner?
That's a really wonderful question. I would suggest having me come and visit your team, and we'll do some training around asking good questions, because any question that goes beyond 2 sentences is about the questioner, not the person that they're asking.
Hmm.
And they're like Larry King used to say, if his question ever went beyond 2 sentences, then it was not about the person he was interviewing, it was about himself. So training people on how to ask proper questions and saying, I hear a question coming, why don't you think about it, we're going to come back to you, whatever. Like,
Oh, that's great.
training them on how to ask better questions is going to be a benefit to everybody. So yeah, my least favorite is when they say, well, why did you choose to do that? Was that because of this, or was that because of this, or was it? And they go on for like 5 minutes giving you this multiple choice answer. And I'm like, are you just hypothesizing? Do I need to be here? So yeah.
The answer is C.
Yeah.
Next.
Yeah. Nailed it.
Right. I've been known to actually say, I know that this question is really important. Do me a favor. I want you to write it down, and we'll come right back to you when you get it written down.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Write that
I have my
down.
moments.
You have more than a few. Let's talk about the opposite too. You got the
Yes.
overtalker, and then you've got the undertalker.
Yes.
You've got that person that doesn't talk in the meeting until the meeting is wrapped up. And that's when they start sharing and basically destroying the decisions that were made and everything that you guys worked on. The way to eliminate that problem is to have everybody speak. Like, okay, let's go around. I want everybody to share their opinion equally. That way it puts that person to share their opinions openly and they can't backtrack later. So overtalker, undertalker, it's 2 sides of the same coin, but you want to address both of them in a meeting for sure.
So talk 1 more minute about that undertalker. So you're in a meeting, as you said, it's a 50-minute meeting, 45 minutes, lots of decisions have been made, and now they want to pick apart. Exactly how do you corral that?
Well, you want to set it up at the beginning. At the very beginning of the meeting, you want to get everybody's voices and opinions into the meeting. So go around the meeting at the very beginning and have everybody share their thoughts on the topic. We started this with everybody type in your expectations. What are your expectations? That way everybody shared their thoughts on the topic and they got buy-in. It got them bought into what was going on here. So you set up at the beginning, get everybody to speak. I've heard the phrase, connection before content. And this is why I don't use slides. Problem with slides, it takes over the image and then people have permission to just kind of tune out, look away. I saw the slide. I don't need to keep staring at it while he's talking. I don't use the slides because I want connection and I want to share my content. Yeah. If I'm going to use a slide, I'm going to put the slide up and then I immediately take it down and go back to the connection again. So connection before content, you start your meeting with a check-in. Everybody in the group is going to share their thoughts on whatever the topic is, and that way you get the ball rolling. You don't have that problem in the end.
Excellent.
There's these tips and more are all in my effective virtual facilitation training. Check it out. You can get it on my website. I also have a downloadable 16-page guidebook to virtual leadership. It's on salvatoremanzi.com/virtual. You can get the free guidebook right there. It's a lot of these tips and more. So.
Well, and that was what I was going to ask you next. There's a couple of questions in our chat box that we'll come back to. But so when an organization brings you in, what are they bringing you in to do exactly related to this topic? And then, of course, virtual leadership.
Right. So it's 2 different routes. One, I have a training that's specifically around helping your team members get more effective at leading online groups. So it's a 60-minute communication training called Effective Virtual Leadership. And that'll help them get all of these tools and more. They'll get to practice them, embody them, and experience them.
Right.
And every time people are, oh, this is exactly what we needed. So it's a really useful tool for your team. A lot of teams bring me in to facilitate, whether it's a change management or a strategy or an offsite or create some sort of virtual event for you. And then I'll facilitate that as any facilitator would, but with my own flavor. But I am a facilitator in that regard. So I have this training that's offered right now, and I also offer facilitation and coaching.
Okay. And I assume you're doing a lot of virtual meetings and training. Have you been converting your in-person programs into virtual?
The only one I've converted is the effective virtual leadership
Yeah.
one, and I'll probably continue to convert more products as I go. But this one has been so popular. It's already, I ran it 7 times this week already. It's the organization. It's exactly what people want because teams aren't used to communicating virtually, and there's a lot of hiccups and things happening. And this 90-minute training is so easy. It corrects all of that and gives people a leg up. So just focused on that right now, and then my regular coaching and facilitation.
Fantastic, fantastic. Couple of things specifically about Mauricio says, your voice sounds perfect, not stuffy, too loud or too low. What kind of environment and equipment are you using? And then Sheila's asking the same thing about lighting. Yes, the lighting is great too. What are you using for lighting?
That's the comment. So it's a MacBook Pro, and I just am using the computer, camera, and sound. And I'm in a like a bedroom size room, and that's it. So that's my setup. I do have the sheet. This is like, I think I told you, it's like a $6 Target sheet that I have put on the wall. Yeah, it's so expensive. It's only the best for this wall, I'm telling you. Anyway, that probably is absorbing some of the sound from behind me, which is helping.
Yes.
Well.
Yeah.
What was the second question again?
Lighting.
Lighting. Oh, so I just have a regular, it is an amber light. It's an amber tune. It's an LED, but it has an amber cover to it. Mm-hmm. So it creates a more warm light. And then I have another light. It's just the regular room light is off to the right on the side.
Okay. I have a quick question for you about the virtual backgrounds. Personally, I find them distracting. When people are coming in and out and their head looks like they're an alien,
or their cat walks by. Have you seen this happen? Like, what just happened on your screen? Are you okay? Yeah, no. I don't think we've gotten advanced enough to have virtual backgrounds be what they're intended to be. But you know what? Right now, people are having fun with them. So
absolutely.
Let's play with them. If that's what you want to do when you get on virtual, have fun with it. But here's the deal. If you have a virtual background, keep your body motions within the box.
Yeah.
Because otherwise your hand is out here and it's all blurry and it's a little distracting. So yeah, it looks black, but it is blue.
Blue, right? Yes.
Yeah, it is. It is black. It's a deep royal blue.
Royal blue. To go with the voice, royal blue.
Oh yes, the voice. Well, I teach communication, so I have to use pitch a lot. Pitch, volume, speed. That's what we got to work with here.
I'm just going to keep asking you questions if you hang out with me too long.
I'm going to hang out with you. No problem.
Okay. So we got a couple more minutes. So about the whole vocal thing. I've also worked with a vocal coach, and I don't know that everyone understands really the value of understanding how to use pitch and tone and pace. What is your perspective on, a speaker, a facilitator, learning those skills?
It's highly important. If a person wants to be a leader in any situation, they need to be able to use inflection in their voice to bring their audience in. We need to know when to whisper. We need to know when to yell. And there's the high pitch when you want to sound a little, hopeful, and the low pitch when you want to sound confident. So you want to play around with it. And the easiest way to do it is get a quote or get a couple of quotes or just Google quotes and practice, like changing the different words. Make this one loud, make this one soft, make this one really fast. Practice around, play with it, and listen, record yourself. This is the hardest thing. I tell all of my clients, and they're like, Salvatore, I don't want to record myself. I don't want to watch it. I get it. No one likes to see themselves on camera or hear themselves in a recording, but it is the most powerful teaching tool you will have. So get some quotes, record yourself reading the quotes, and then tweak it, play with it. I always suggest that my clients pick one thing. Okay, this week I'm going to be using loud. And that whole week I'm going to use loud. So I'll go and I'll say, I'll have a tall cappuccino. No whip. And just getting used to like throwing that little, just to get it into my system.
Yes.
So.
That's fantastic. Well, we've got lots of compliments here. Your presence is absolutely capturing. Fantastic. Well done, Salvatore. and just repeats that over and over again. And I'm just going to have to concur.
Oh,
Fantastic,
I appreciate it.
my
It's a
friend.
lot of fun being with you.
Oh, well, a lot of fun being you. Is that what you said?
Being with you. Yes. So
So,
funny.
I knew you didn't say it, but I knew that I could tease you. So that was
Yes.
fantastic. Your sense of humor has also just been really entertaining. So,
Thank
and I
you.
think that's something that facilitators can also learn is
Yeah.
the use of levity, the use of, laughing at ourselves.
Oh, definitely.
So, so would you share one more time how folks can get a hold of you?
salvatoremanzi.com/virtual. And that has the effective virtual leadership. It's the information, and it also has the downloadable guidebook. But the
Right.
website also goes into more details about my coaching and facilitation and speaking. So
Okay, fantastic. So, well done. Thank you for joining us,
thank you,
folks.
Sheila. Thank you, Paige. And thank you, Anissa. It's been fun interacting, playing, laughing with you. I hope we do this again.
I do too. Thank you so much, sir. Stay safe and healthy. And everyone, thank you and stay safe and healthy.
All right.